All right, everyone, welcome to the Why Your Promoted Listings Are Failing webinar. I am Richie from Marmalead. I have Gordon from Marmalead. I almost pointed up to him, but I'm not sure where he is on your screen. And of course, we have our special guest, Dave from Woodland Zen and AddToCart Etsy Help. In the email that we sent out notifying you of this webinar, we put the Etsy Jam episode that Dave was with us to begin with. Hope you got a chance to go listen to that because that was an awesome episode and definitely gives you some background on who Dave is. Dave is someone that just continues to impress us, so we're very excited to have him on the webinar now. He's a big fan of Marmalead and doing some pretty awesome things in his shop and really helping other Etsy sellers in a big way. But I will let Dave tell you a little bit more.
Hey, what's up, guys? Yeah, so thanks for coming today. If you have not met me yet, my name is Dave. I'm a 25-year-old six-figure Etsy seller, and I started a few years back, struggled a lot to begin with, spent a lot of money on promoted listings as well as trying a lot of other things. Finally made it all work, and now have started teaching others because I believe that the learning curve should not be super long and painful like what I experienced and what most other Etsy sellers experience. So thank you for coming today.
Hey, a quick question for everybody.
Go ahead.
If someone could write in the chat, I just want to make sure that our webcams are being shown. Because I know I'm not sharing anything else, but I want to make sure that webcams are actually being shown.
If you guys do have questions too throughout, feel free to send them on through. And if we have time at the end, we'll try to get through as many of them as we can.
Absolutely, yes. So we're definitely gonna do a Q&A at the end. If you want to make sure you don't forget what your question is, you can definitely type them in, as we go. But yeah, that'll be the format for the questions. Okay, cool. I am seeing people are saying that yes, they can see all of us, so that's awesome. Always nice to just double check those. All right. Cool. Yeah, didn't mean to derail things there. Just want to make sure. Didn't want to, everyone to think. Yeah. All right. Cool. All right. So let's kick it off.
Excellent. So in this why your promoted listings may be failing, I'm going to go over some really simple things as well as some intermediate things that a lot of people don't consider when using promoted listings. We usually turn promoted listings on, listening to one strategy or another, or maybe not having a strategy at all. And then a lot of sellers expect it to work. They just set it and forget it. And sometimes it spends and it doesn't earn, and then they failed. So, and not a lot of people can figure out why. And it's because they don't understand from the beginning a clear strategy that they want to implement. So the first one that I want to talk about today is really simple. It's actually just your main photo, your main thumbnail image. So there's a few different reasons. The first obvious reason being, your first impression being the most important one. What people see right away strikes their attention, they get them to click. But the other important factor to realize is that your click-through rate, which is how often people actually click on whatever you're talking about when talking about click-through rate, how many times they click on it compared to how many impressions it has. So impressions are when it just shows up on somebody's computer screen, and clicks are when somebody actually clicks. So your click-through rate really, really affects how your promoted listing and your organic listings rank. If it has a high click-through rate, Etsy knows that it's engaged with frequently, and it is desired, and it is something that they should show more often. So that gets you a higher rank, and it gets you to have more success. You could have like a really good listing with a great price, a great product. When people get it, they always leave a great review, but the first photo might be terrible, and it might throw everything off, and it just may prevent the whole purchase path from even occurring. So yeah, that's a really big one, is the main photo.
That's a good tip, and it's true too, because we see that even outside of promoted listings. That's Etsy's search algorithm works that way for our organic search too. So I mean, it is a super important thing to have dialed in for your listings.
Yeah, absolutely. Click-through rate is everything. It's not just Etsy's algorithm. Lots of other algorithms throughout the internet world, you know, analyze and judge and rank based on engagement. You know, Instagram is just like that. Facebook is just like that. The more likes you get, the more it's shown to, etc. So a lot of people can think about it in this way, and it's a really refreshing way to see the search results in Etsy, and you could look at it as like an Instagram feed or a Facebook feed or something. If the items in the search results are not getting engaged with, they're not going to stay on the top. If they're very boring and engaged with not very often, they're going to lose rank, because Etsy doesn't want to show off boring listings. They want to show off their best pieces. So
Yeah, exactly. Like their whole goal is to get people to make purchases, right? And so if they're putting these listings in front of shoppers because they think it's a good candidate for the shopper, but shoppers overall aren't engaging with them, you know, it's wasted space on the page, and Etsy would rather replace them with other listings that shoppers are engaging with.
yeah,
Absolutely. It's a
absolutely.
measure of attention, really, right? Or yeah, of attention. If people are clicking, they're paying attention to it. And if you think about walking through the grocery store, I mean, it certainly stops me when I'm walking, like I'm gonna go buy something that I normally buy, and all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute, that box changed. You know, like, and sometimes they even have the old box and the new box. And then I don't know about you guys, but I sit there and try to figure out which one's the new one, because sometimes I've forgotten which one's the new one. And I try to
Yeah,
forget which one. I try to grab the new one.
yeah.
So I think it's,
That's
but it,
another quick solution to testing if your main photo is bad and it's affecting your listing. If you like really, there's a lot of factors involved with if your promoted listing is doing well, but if you wanted to test out if it's just what we're talking about right now, the main photo and the click-through rate, you could delete a listing, relist it with the same title and tags, but use a different thumbnail image, and you will see if it does differently, because then it will have another chance to engage with buyers and have another chance to show its worth.
Good test.
Yeah. So the next one I want to talk about is another kind of under the rug aspect that may be affecting a lot of promoted listings across Etsy that Etsy sellers aren't realizing. So this is a big mistake a lot of people make, and it's junk tags. So with promoted listings, you're essentially paying to play. You're paying to get in front of a lot of people, right? So it doesn't matter if your listing is good or bad, you're paying to get it in front of people. And if it's bad, you're gonna know, because you're gonna spend more than what you make. You might make nothing and spend some on a specific listing, but just because it is a promoted listing and you're paying to play does not mean you're going to have success. So a junk tag is something that accidentally takes up a lot of clicks from your budget. So if you have, I posted a YouTube video on this a few days ago talking about an experience I had, which was a sweater, right? I listed a print-on-demand sweater and I had all my tags, but the word sweater could not fit with the keyword I wanted in front of it. So I had to have sweater all lonely by itself. So as you can guess, sweater was the junk tag in this situation, because as I was bidding, I'm bidding to show my listing in front of everyone searching for these keywords. So sweater is a huge keyword. You know, I didn't specify what type of sweater. So Etsy was showing this listing that was a niche listing, you know, my shop is Woodland Zen, so it's all about like foresty stuff. So one niche was being shown to a large percentage of Etsy searches because of that one tag, and you could see in the data that this tag had a high click rate and it was sucking up my promoted listings budget. So that of course made me go negative, made me look at how much I'm spending, how much I'm making, and say, okay, this one is not doing so well, and I had to kill it. But if you have like a huge campaign and you're not analyzing your listings properly, then you will have junk tags that are just hanging out in the dark, sucking away your budget.
that's a great point there. So too often I hear that people just want to fill up their tags with stuff. Like I've picked my couple good keywords and I'm just going to fill the tags just to fill them. They're like, in a way, if you're not promoting it, then sure, I'd rather have you just fill the tags for organic search rather than not having them there. But I'd rather all of them be intentionally there. And especially like you're saying, if you're doing promoted listings, because hey, an advertiser will run your ad and take your money, even if it's not a great fit, right? They're not, you want to go run an ad in the magazine, they're going to take your money. As long as it fits their standards, they don't really care what happens after that, right? You bought the ad space. Same if you buy like a retail space. They're like, okay, what you're going to use this for fits our use terms. Go for it. Best of luck to you as long as you pay the bill.
Yeah, absolutely.
So
That's the thing with a lot of ad platforms is that you have to realize it is a business and they are in it to make money. But at the same time, they do give you all of the tools to reach the audience that they are selling you. So like with Facebook,
yes.
They're selling you all this data that you can target with. So the same with Facebook, if you target, a unicorn audience and you're trying to sell like handmade soap that has nothing to do with that, then you're not going to make money. That same analogy applies to the junk tag situation. You are paying to play, but you need to have all your ducks in a row. You need to know who you're targeting and make sure everything is lined up properly. So,
absolutely, because you want to pay to get it in front of not just people, but in front of the right people.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So like I was saying a couple minutes ago, the famous art collector, he or she doesn't show their best pieces, or no, their worst pieces to their best buyers. And the same goes for ad platforms. If you have a bad listing or a bad ad and it's not getting a good engagement, then they don't show it to as many people. But if it has a high engagement and people click on it often, people clicking on it often means them making more money and the people on their platform not getting angry about the ads, because they're not only wanting to sell you an ad, but they want to make their customers' experience wholesome as well. So Facebook doesn't want to sell ads to some kind of like gnarly extremist group for whatever group you want to talk about. They want to sell ads to advertisers that will make their users happy and excited and holy crap, look at this cool product I found when I was scrolling through Facebook or when I was scrolling through Etsy. I had no idea I wanted this until I seen it. And that's what they're going for. But if it is not a good experience, they'll still take your money no matter what. So you have to keep that in mind.
Right, they will. But of course, then you're bidding against other people as well. So there's like, absolutely, there's a bunch that goes into that. But yeah, that's the whole thing, right? Like they want to make sure to protect their customers. Shops are their customers, but since they're in the middle, they're the marketplace, right? They have the sellers and then they have the shoppers, and they need to come together, and they really need to keep both of them happy. So like you're saying, like they need to make sure that when they're showing listings, it's something their customers want to buy. Because if you go to Etsy, if someone says, hey, you're going to go find some great gifts and just other stuff for yourself, like you're going to find that if you love handmade stuff, you love vintage stuff, Etsy is the place to find something special. And then you go there and you don't find it, you're going to be like, that person has no idea what they're talking about.
Exactly.
What do they think I like, right?
That's why they started the interest-based search results, like showing it based on results. And I think it's similar to, any other platform giving advertisers a pixel to store data about their customers. Like Etsy is actively collecting data on who buys what and using that to serve the proper results to buyers, because whenever they do algorithm changes or anything to that effect, they are attempting to increase their conversion rate totally over the entire website. So it may hurt some sellers, it may help other sellers. That's an unfortunate aspect of algorithm changes, but in the long run, Etsy is attempting to increase the conversion rate of the entire website. So when somebody types in, unicorn handmade soap. They find the best piece of unicorn handmade soap and they're so happy. They tell all their friends come to Etsy, and we all become successful Etsy sellers because there's so many awesome new niches like unicorn handmade soap.
Absolutely. That makes sense. I mean, it's relationships, right? Like if you're having a party, you want people coming over to hang out with you that you have a good relationship with. You're not just inviting blanket invite to the city bunch of random people, right? Like you have, and as you know people, like as we get to know each other, we talk about the things that we have common interests in because that's what we find engaging. And then there's other people that, you know, have a different common interest and we have different conversations.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next reason why people's promoted listings may be failing is a really simple setting. It's a very large global setting that affects the entire campaign, and it's having a huge inventory and a tiny daily budget. So I see this happen often with shops that have been around for a while that have like over 150 listings. They have some cobwebs over here on some old listings over there, and they just have a ton of listings, and then they decide to use promoted listings and start with a really small daily budget because of fear and other aspects. Fear mostly from not having a solid strategy in place. So they set a budget that is way too low, and it gets like almost 0 impressions for their giant shop that needs to get, you know, over 1,000 views per day to make what they normally make, right? So adding this extra traffic source of this tiny little amount and expecting it to create a large amount is never going to work. So if you have a huge inventory and you're advertising all of your listings and you have a small daily budget of like 10 bucks, 15 bucks, then you're not going to get enough impressions to make sales. You may even be getting just enough clicks to spend your money, but not make any money for yourself. So there's kind of like a small gray area in between not spending enough and deciding, okay, I'm going to spend, I'm going to get the data, and I'm going to find listings that sell, optimize them, and scale them, make new ones, etc. So it's such a simple setting, you know, your daily budget. It's one setting, and this setting has an effect on the entire campaign, you know, in multiple aspects, in multiple ways. I talk about this in the promoted listings success course about how this one setting can transform an entire campaign. But for now, just know that if you have a lot of listings and you're only throwing a few pennies at each one, you're not going to get enough impressions to make sales. So what you can do is either turn off the promoted listings that aren't getting any impressions, that are spending and not earning. Just do a really simple, clean sweep. Turn off the no impressions, turn off all your old listings, and only have them on listings that sell often, more than once a week. Then your budget will be used more properly, and you have a better chance of selling just those listings with that budget. Otherwise, if you don't want to do that, if you are willing to increase your daily budget, then do that, and keep an eye on your campaign and your bids, because you can still have listings that have low impressions and kind of do nothing, which is a tough cookie to crumble in a way, because there's so many different factors that make a listing just kind of die out and do nothing. No clicks, no impressions. I go over that extensively in the course, but just know that if you are having low impressions, the daily budget is your first stop, your first troubleshooting spot. So I hope that one tip can help a lot of people. If you can take anything away from this webinar, is that your daily budget, it affects your entire campaign.
Dave, real quick, for people who might not be familiar with the terminology, what do you mean by impressions?
Impressions are the amount of times a listing shows up on your computer screen. So we have clicks, which are views. You know, when somebody clicks on your listing, they click on it, and that's a view. But an impression is just the amount of times that it shows up on a computer screen. So when you're on your Facebook feed and you're scrolling through and you see an ad but you don't click on it, you're still one impression for that advertiser. So it's an important statistic to know, because you will be able to calculate your click-through rate based on impressions. Because if you make $5,000 in one day, right, at like let's just say it's a market, some kind of handmade market, or whatever it may be, you have a brick and mortar business and you make $5,000, that's great, but how many people came into the store total that day? Did 100,000 people come through your store and you only made $5,000? You might have a terrible conversion rate and you might just have a terrible store, but just the fact that you got so much traffic resulted in those sales. So that's why you need to know how many impressions you have, because it gives you a much larger reference point for if you're getting a lot of clicks. That's a common question that I get on my YouTube channel is, hey, I'm getting a ton of impressions. Is that good? And the answer, it can be yes or it can be no. It's no, it's not good if you're not getting many clicks, or if you are getting many clicks and you're not getting sales. But so it varies. It really varies. So that's what an impression is.
Good description. Thank you for clarifying that. There's another term I want to ask you to clarify too. So about 60% of our audience here, those who have signed up for the webinar, have used or are using promoted listings.
Cool.
But I still don't know how much at what level they're using them. And then so 40% have never used them. So I want to make sure they have a couple of these terms down too. One of those would be campaigns, because you mentioned campaign budget. And then just if you could talk a little bit about what you mean by campaign, and then the relationship between the campaign and the specific listings. You don't have to go super deep into it. I'm sure your course and ebook does, but just so they have a little bit of working knowledge as we go through it.
Absolutely, yeah. So when we say campaign, we're just referring to the fact that we're using promoted listings. When you go over to sales and coupons and then you click on, when you go over to marketing and then you click on promoted listings, that dashboard is showing you your campaign. If you were to take $100 and you go to Facebook and you start advertising, and you have one plan in mind, and you're going to use this $100, that is your campaign. It's like your project. The fact that you're doing promoted listings is your campaign. So it's just the fact that you're doing it and your strategy throughout. And then the next question you wanted me to clarify was identifying the relationship between daily budget and your entire campaign, specifically the listings within the campaign, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, so
because we got the campaign, then we got listings, and the campaign, the budget, just kind of tie it together.
Absolutely. So daily budget is the cream of the crop when it comes to your campaign, because you're choosing how much you're willing to spend each day. 9 times out of the 10, you don't spend it all every day because you set a max cost per click. But the daily budget is just how much you're willing to spend each day. It's your maximum amount each day. Whether it gets spent or not is up in the air, depending on how you have your settings and if you set up your campaign correctly, which the course does go over in depth. But it's super important to realize the relationship between the daily budget and all of your listings. It goes back to having a huge inventory and a tiny daily budget, or vice versa, which is the next reason, actually, having a tiny inventory and high expectations. But so if you have, let's say you have a $5 daily budget, 150 listings, and you're choosing it to bid 25 cents on each one of those listings, that $5 daily budget is going to get spent up so quickly that it's gone, and you didn't really get that many impressions over all of your listings. You didn't get enough data for your entire shop. You're just spending a few quarters here and there, and it's not wholesome data. when you are having a small budget with a large inventory, or vice versa. You're just not getting enough data to act upon, like statistical data, like what keywords are being searched and stuff like that. And you're just not getting enough chances to make a sale. So daily budget can have a huge, huge effect. I hope that clarified it for sure.
Definitely, that definitely puts some more meat around it. Thank you.
Cool. So let's just go right into the next thing that I mentioned, is having a tiny inventory and high expectations. So if you have maybe 20 to 40, maybe under 60 listings, and whatever you set your budget at, you're just like, awesome, okay, promoted listings, we got this, we're gonna do it, we're gonna make a ton of money, and you have high expectations, it may not happen for you because you don't have that many listings. You want to reach as many people as possible with quality listings. See, so this message can be diluted into just spam a ton of listings onto Etsy, which is not what we're going for. We're going for quality listings in a decent amount, so you can attempt to reach as much of Etsy as possible. If I sold this pen on Etsy as dad gift or something like that, then only people searching for dad gifts are going to find it. But if I make 2 or 3 extra listings with a different main photo and some other variants, and I call it, business person gift and all these other types of things that can be sold to other people, then obviously I'm going to reach more people. This goes for organic listings as well, but it really comes into play when you're doing promoted listings, because you're, like we all talk about, you're paying to play. So if you're paying to play but you only have a few chess pieces, you can't really complete a full game of chess. So
Especially if they're pawns.
yeah, that's another one. It can go vice versa. Big inventory, small budget, or small budget or big budget, small inventory.
Yeah, makes sense. So either one of those extremes, you're not in a great position, and there's a happy balance in there where you're finding success.
Yeah, absolutely. So the next thing is just being confused. The next reason of why your promoted listings may be failing is not being able to analyze the data properly and know what it means. It's important to understand what you're doing and have a clear strategy into place. For example, if you make a choice with one of your, whatever it may be on your promoted listings, like, hey, I'm going to decide to raise the bid on this one listing. If you decide, whatever choice you make, and if you don't have a clear plan of action after you get a result, whether the result makes you happy or makes you sad, you can take that and move forward. If you don't know what to do after you get that result, then you may fail, because, like, let's say you raise the bid, you get a ton of extra impressions and clicks, it starts spending more than it was spending, but you're still getting sales, so you don't want to turn it off. So you're in a little bit of a dilemma. I've talked to a lot of sellers with that dilemma, that, like, sometimes this listing will spend a lot and still make sales, so it's like kind of like this. And then sometimes it's making money, but then it's not. So if you don't know how to take one of those listings, analyze it, find out why it's doing what it's doing, then you're going to continue in that Etsy promoted listings purgatory. You're in purgatory with promoted listings. You're just in limbo. You're stuck in the dream world. So you have to know what to do. You have to, okay, after I do this, and if this happens, I'm going to do this. If that happens, I'm going to do that. It's very simple. So it's you don't build a house with only knowing how to put a roof on. You have to know every single step and what to do if you run into issues. Also, troubleshooting. This is a huge reason why people fail at promoted listings. They don't know how to troubleshoot, and they'll have all these, there's so many different types of situations that can arise when it comes to promoted listings, outside of this listing's doing good, this listing's doing bad. There's so many different listings in between there that if you don't know how to troubleshoot it, you're just going to be fumbling around and you're going to spend way more money than you actually need to become successful on Etsy.
Makes a lot of sense. It's much like anything else that relies on data, right? If you're gonna try to measure something, you better understand what it means. If you pull out a measuring tape and you're reading off some numbers, what are we talking about? Is this thing metric, English? What's going on? What does this mean? And then you better be entering the right things in the right places, right? Don't try to enter in metric on something that, on an input that takes English, just things like that. You'd be better off guessing than just running off of a misunderstanding of the data. So yeah, absolutely. Makes sense.
Yep, for sure. Yeah, so having a clear strategy in place, super important. Tons of my students from my YouTube channel and emails, they've gotten a lot of success out of the promoted listings ebook and courses. And it really just gives you a clear insight and strategy into what to do. It teaches you how to analyze your listings, how to set everything up the right way, how to move forward and take the steps necessary to take care of those gray area listings in order to move forward and succeed. The course also has some unique strategies and just little workarounds that I have formulated personally that work, and I show you how they have worked. So not only does it show you exactly how to become successful with Etsy promoted listings, it also has a few fun little strategies that nobody ever talks about that I have found out for myself. And there's an extra bonus in there as well. So the course is really great, and I really put a lot into it. It's all essentially, if you buy the course, you're time traveling and taking care of a giant learning curve that I had to experience. So you learn from successful people's mistakes, and this is the best way to do so.
I love that what you're sharing is something that you're actually doing, like right now, right?
Yeah.
You're sharing something that you've been walking out and are continuing to walk out. So that's really awesome. You're actually sharing your learning in real time, right? I mean, you've made updates, since when we first started talking, because things keep changing. And I think that's really important. And the other thing is, you're coming at this from a whole system and strategy point of view. And I love that, because I think that consistency is so important. You can't just try something for 10 minutes and then say, oh, it didn't work, on to the next thing. Or, oh, I like that one thing Dave said, but I'm not going to listen to the other things because I'm going to just kind of piece together things. It doesn't work that way, right? It's all part of it's got to be all part of the same set. Yeah, you got to follow it, because unless you really intimately know the ins and outs of each little individual block and how each works together in the whole system, you can't just piecemeal it. You've got to take the whole thing, because maybe that's the success, is individual. You take out that one Jenga block, the whole tower falls. You better know which one that is if you're going to try that crap.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, if you have any questions from the chat, then I can definitely answer them right now.
I have a question.
Go ahead, Gordon.
All right, so we talked a little bit about click-through rate, right? And how that's a measurement of like how many impressions you're getting versus how many people are clicking through to visit your listings. And you don't want to have a bunch out there that aren't getting clicks. So you want to have a higher click-through rate. We've talked a lot before about conversion rate, and I think people might be more familiar with that term, especially if they're not familiar with promoted listings yet. And Etsy says for conversion rate, shoot for 3%. Seems like most sellers end up hitting, around 1%. And so that's kind of a measurement that you can use as a seller to see, like, am I on the right track, or where can I be making improvements? Is there sort of a guideline that you found for click-through rate, what like a sweet spot is that people should be shooting for?
Yes, there are industry standards across different average, like industry standards. There's industry standards, then there's like platform standards, and then vice versa and crossing over. I don't have a specific number in my head right now, but there is a standard click-through rate that you want to be shooting for. A super quick Google search will tell you that. what the percentage may be, because click-through rates for, like, for example, like healthcare, it's way higher than e-commerce, because for healthcare, if so, you know, that's like more than warm traffic. If you're searching for like cancer treatment or something, that's like, you're for sure gonna do this. So the click-through rate is way higher. And also because of that, the advertising costs for those industries go way up. Like with Google AdWords, there's clicks out there for like $150 in like insurance and health. The biggest one is like mesothelioma lawsuits. If you want to be a lawyer and advertise on Google AdWords for mesothelioma, then it like the bidding for those clicks are like extremely high. I only know this because I read some articles on these types of things, but
Yeah.
So I don't have an exact number in my head right now for you that I reference, but a quick Google search will definitely tell you.
And it sounds like it could end up being different by market too. Like if you're in the vintage space on Etsy, your click-through rate could be totally different than, you know, someone in handmade unicorn soap.
Absolutely, yeah.
All right, we have quite a few questions. I was going through these. So that's awesome. Loving the engagement here. And Dave, you have a fan. Mary is a big fan of yours. She says, Dave, I love your YouTube videos. So helpful. So I want to start off that one, buddy.
Thank you very
Good
much.
job. All right.
Also, I just want to say to everybody that the link for the course is going to be in an email after this webinar, so you don't have to go looking for it or anything. You'll receive a link right after this.
Yep, and you're going to give them a special discount, aren't you?
That's it, right? Yeah, 35% off for Marmalead only. So it's going to expire never, and it's lifetime good. It's good for a lifetime. So.
But that doesn't mean to wait. All right, so I'll read these off because I don't think you guys can see them. But Andrea says, I love promoted listings for gathering search data, but I'll admit I've invested hundreds of dollars with little return. I think it's mainly because I sell mostly one-of-a-kind quilts. Do you have any suggestions for that?
For sure, yeah. So your hunch that you have is definitely pretty spot on. The fact that it's one-of-a-kind quilts, that can have an adverse effect on your promoted listings for sure. But something that you could be doing is going through all of that data and look for those junk tags like we were talking about. I'm sure that you can find at least a couple junk tags that are taking away from your budget and just using it up and lowering your ROI, your return on investment. So just look for junk tags and try to get like an idea of who buys quicker, right? People that buy your stuff when they're searching for this specific keyword, they may buy less than people who look for your stuff when they're using this specific keyword. And the data will show you that. The data will also show you that if there's straight up junk tags. So just go through the data and try to find some trends. Try to find the things that say high order rate with the check mark and then the high click rate. Look at those ones. There's going to be good and bad keywords with those tags on it. So just go through and analyze. And in the course, I go over how to find junk tags, how to fix them, etc.
So Dave, would you say that it's fair that, because I feel like the one of kind and the type of products and whatnot is a question you could really put in just like any type of product in that and have that same kind of question. Is it fair that if you have a buyer on Etsy, if you have something that's going to sell on Etsy, the promoted listings is going to work for you? It's just a matter of getting it dialed in, because if people are finding and buying your stuff organically, promoted listings is really just a way to turn up the heat on that, right?
Yeah, absolutely. The reason that you don't feel any heat on yourself with organic listings is because you're not paying to play. So even the people who find you through the junk tags and look at your stuff, they're not costing you any money, so it's no big deal. And then at the same time, people are coming through that find you through tags that they like, and they see your stuff and they buy it. So you can't really tell, like, oh, okay, there's traffic coming from these keywords that people don't really buy. You just experience a few sales here and there, and you don't know for sure if you're successful or if what is happening. So with promoted listings, yes, you can there with almost with every type of seller on Etsy, yes, you can do your research, get your data, and find those buyers, find what they're typing in, and get your stuff in front of them. It's a powerful advertising way to advertise, because promoted listings is warm traffic. We've talked about this in the last jam, and I've talked about this in the YouTube videos before, that promoted listings is warm traffic. Facebook ads in the news feeds, that's cold traffic. Those people had no idea they wanted to buy your stuff. But with promoted listings, or like, for example, Pinterest or Google AdWords, you search something, and then somebody that wants to sell you that exact thing, their ad shows up in front of you. That's warm traffic. You have intention to buy. But cold traffic is different. So with that being said, if there is warm traffic on Etsy for your product, yes, you can sell them your product using promoted listings and excel more than you would with organic listings.
Makes sense. It's not about what you sell, it's a matter of, are people looking for it? And if people are looking for it, then yes, they will work for you. And so basically, another way of saying it is, if promoted listings won't work for you, kind of nothing will, because it just means people aren't looking for it.
Yeah.
Next question from Amanda is, Dave, what are you selling? What do you currently, as far as in your shops, what do you got?
We do handmade jewelry. We started, my girlfriend and I started a few years back selling our handmade crystal jewelry. She would make bracelets, I would make necklaces. I would also hand carve spoons. I no longer make necklaces or spoons. She continues to make crystal jewelry, and I handle print on demand. We do print on demand and crystal bracelets. So with print on demand, you can sell as many as you want and keep scaling up and up and up. We hit a point with our shop where we're like, okay, we're making so many things right now that we need to find a source of income that doesn't require us to, shed blood, sweat, and tears every single day for a couple hours. Because, if the side of Etsy nobody talks about is when you do really well and you start feeling like a slave to the Etsy game. That is a side that not a lot of people talk about, and it can happen if you have a really short processing time and a lot of orders. Then you can feel that pressure. But honestly, that pressure is better than any pressure in the world compared to like a 9-to-5 or anything. It is pressure, but it's way softer than like cubicle pressure, or like, office space style 9-to-5 pressure. Way better than that. So yeah.
I like
special kind of offer. Oh man. Okay, so Julie says, if I do Google Ads on Etsy, do I still need to Google Ad outside of Etsy on Google Ads? What is the difference? Right now I do both. So this sounds kind of Google Ad specific though.
Yeah, that's okay. I can answer still. If you do Google Ads with Etsy's like gateway to do it, that's fine. You don't have to go on to Google AdWords and then send traffic directly to your Etsy listings. If you're gonna do that, then I would recommend, if you're gonna do Google AdWords on its own, then also do the e-commerce on its own and create a standalone website, because then you can have a tracking pixel and a ton of extra stuff. The whole idea behind having an Etsy dashboard is the convenience of having the marketplace traffic and then having all these other things and integrations done for us. But if you are familiar with Google AdWords on its own and you think that you have mastered it to some degree, then I would recommend doing it on a standalone, because you will pay less fees and you may experience a higher conversion rate from your Google Ads traffic, because it's a product page that is only your product, not a marketplace. But long story short, just do it in your Etsy dashboard. It's going to be the same exact thing, unless there are extra tweaks that you can do in Google Ads, which there are a ton of extra things that you can do. So it's up to you. If you want a giant level of control, then I'm sure you are comfortable using Google Ads specifically. But using it on Etsy is a great way to just take care, to have an extra traffic source that you don't have to manage as intensely. So it's honestly, it's up to you for sure.
Okay, cool. All right. Apologize if I don't pronounce this correctly, but Matei wants to know, what is a high click rate for, say, 1,000 impressions? So if you, in your shop, I guess, Dave, if you had 1,000 impressions, how many clicks?
Well, I'd say 10% click-through rate would be 100. So that would be really good. A 10% click-through rate, a 100 clicks out of 1,000 impressions would be like, whoa, how did you do that?
Perfect.
So, yeah.
Cool. All right. Amanda wants to know, does Etsy use the Facebook pixel in promoted listings?
Like, I'm not sure completely in promoted listings. Like, Etsy has pixel, like we have the ability to use pixels now. If you go through it correctly, it's like, it's not very clear. You go through the Facebook ads dashboard, etc. It's not super clear. Previously, they said you could use the pixel, but there was no access to it. Trust me, I've tried. And then recently, just made a video about Facebook ads for Etsy sellers saying, hey, you can't use the pixel. This is why the pixel is so important. But then somebody corrected me and said, hey, you can use it. So I've yet to investigate that, if Etsy lets you use a pixel on your shop, which would be really interesting, because then maybe you could also use it on another site at the same time and collect a ton of data and get free data from Etsy, which would be insane. I'm going to investigate into that. But
to your knowledge, Facebook pixel isn't part of promoted listings, right?
No. Promoted Etsy, right. Etsy wouldn't be able to use Facebook's data for their own commercial purposes. That wouldn't, Facebook would not allow that.
Yeah. Yeah, they don't have
I personally believe that Etsy has their own, like, they definitely have their own database of like a pixel style data, where obviously they do. If they didn't, they wouldn't be able to do interest-based search results. So they're definitely collecting data on people and using that for their advantage, like I said, to increase the conversion rate of the entire site. But no, the long story short, no, for the question.
So that could be a good way to say it. No, they're not using a Facebook pixel, but they're definitely using perhaps what you may deem as an Etsy pixel, because they absolutely have been rocking personalized search for a while. And that is really the same concept, is they know what you're interested in, they've built a profile, and they're using that in everything you do. Because they're using it in organic search, they're definitely using it in promoted listings, because that's where they're popping up from the shopper side.
Yeah, it's like Big Brother, but he actually just wants to buy you a really nice gift.
Right? Exactly. Nice way to say it. All right. Question from Sissy is, what makes the first photo most appealing in order to get click-throughs? And there's a follow-up question. Is it best to have a context photo for the thumbnail or a plain, clear close-up? And from these, I mean, just kind of, you can speak to some experience as far as like, what elements do you think makes a great first photo, and you know, context photo or close-up? And if you can even share one way or the other, if it depends.
Yeah. So the best thumbnail image you can have is something that is like really clear and understandable right off the bat. There's a lot of little squares in the search results, so you want to make sure that it is not only eye-catching, but also extremely visually easy to understand. So, for example, like, you want the entire product within the thumbnail. If it's a smaller type item, you know, that can fit inside that square. And in terms of the context, it really, I think it matters depending on what you are selling. Because if it's an item that is not clear right off the bat what it is, what it does, then a context photo would be really useful, because if it's a context photo that in one glance explains what it does, and you see the image and you go, oh wow, that's nifty, that's super cool, I want that, then that is a situation that a context photo would do better. Just make sure that it's really clear, the context is really clear. It can't be like super far away, like an item on a table really far away, and then like you got like your grandma's china cabinet in the background and stuff like that. Like, don't do that either. So it really depends on the context of the context, really. If it doesn't need explaining, do a really clear photo, and if it does need explaining, do a context photo. And then from there on out, test which do better. Have a few different types of context photos, and then have a few different types of product photos, and just see which does better.
Cool. And I will say this about context photos too. Make sure that people know what in it is for sale, because sometimes you have context photos and it's not real, it looks great, the photo looks great, but the context of what is actually being sold here, not positive. So I'll just add to make sure that's really clear as well. All right. I'm going to try to keep the questions on this for these, because we've got a lot of questions, as specific as possible as promoted listings. And then, Dave, I will share with you the other questions, and maybe the answers to those will show up on your YouTube channel or something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Because there's a lot of great questions in here. Some of them are more promoted listings related, and some of them are more just kind of quality of listings related, let's say.
Let's do like 2 to 3 promoted listings questions, and then for all the other stuff that's just kind of like assorted questions, just like rail them off to me, just like a few maybe, just rail them off to me really quick, and I'll give a really quick lightning answer.
Okay, I like that. All right, let me find one. You've put the pressure on me here.
No worries. I can talk really long, or I can just say it in 2 sentences. I can go both ways that way.
Perfect.
And yeah, my YouTube channel, AddToCart, has a ton of resources. And if I ever meet people in person that are like, hey, I need help with my Etsy, I literally just say, like, go watch all of my videos on YouTube. They will help you. And
you've got quite a few out there too.
Yeah, and you can see on the comments that people really have used my tips, implement them, and really get success from them as well. It's not everything in my course, in my ebooks, in my YouTube channels. I always focus on not having too much fluff information. Just like, I mean, fluff information is good, like the feel-good stuff, the mindset stuff. I still have some of that, but I also really appreciate when there's actionable tips and actionable instructions on new things you can try to gain success. So all of my courses, all of my YouTube videos, free videos, my paid books, everything, always actionable and very useful, no fluff.
All right, first question here. What would you suggest for a very niche item that has maybe 3 or 4 good tags that are specific to the item? Should I leave the rest of the tags empty if I plan to promote that listing? And that question is from Philip.
All right, Philip. So no, don't leave them empty. Go find some new keywords, like those good couple keywords that are really good. Put them into Marmalead. Use the bubble at the bottom, and just start looking for some more stuff that could work. Start testing with new stuff that could work along with those 3 good keywords that you're saying are good. Use those and test them with a bunch of different other stuff. And then in terms of like really niche stuff, you can mix the really niche stuff with the really broad stuff. So let's say it's like some kind of super niche, like nature. Let's say you make like the fairy huts for people's gardens and stuff, like the little gnome gardens and stuff. That's super niche. That's in like the forest woodlandish niche, right? Mix those good tags with that, then add really broad ones that are still kind of specific to your niche. For example, nature lover's gift, hippie gift, stuff like that. So those are really broad that when somebody searches it and sees your item, they have a high likelihood of seeing it and buying it, along with your super niche awesome keywords, and you will get some results that way. And just test and test and test.
Test, test, test. That is a big important theme. All right. Okay, here we go. Do you set promoted listings for your high selling items, or is that not a good use of your ad money because it already sells already? That question is from Erica. So basically, yeah, you have something that's already selling well. Do you want to promote that, or do you want to promote things that aren't selling well?
Yeah, I promote things that are selling well already because first, you can make duplicates with different main images and try new titles and tags. What you could do is, like, let's say you have a winner, you take 3 of the really good keywords, you make a duplicate, you put those 3 really good ones in there, then you add some new ones that you want to try. So, and then you do that with promoted listings, and that way you have the good tags in there, so you're getting, you know, proven traffic, and then you're getting that test traffic as well. And if it's bad traffic, you'll be able to see that in your promoted listings data. So yes, promote your good sellers also, because with AutoBid uses Etsy's algorithm to decide who to show it to, not only just based off of the keyword searches. They do it off of interest-based search results. They say this in the handbook. AutoBid uses Etsy algorithm. So if it has a ton of sales and a ton of history and it's doing great, then it knows who to show it to. So put an ad on it with AutoBid, and then it'll be shown to even more people that Etsy has a really good reason of thinking they're going to buy it because they have all this data. So short answer, yes.
Love it. It makes a lot of sense because, you know what, if something is already selling well without putting ad spend on it, and like you just said, with Etsy has data, the more this thing is being sold, the more data Etsy actually has. So I would say that the better shot they actually have of guessing correctly that these other people are also good potential buyers for it. Because the more that are buying it, the more information they have about the people who are buying it. The less it's selling, the less information, the more of a guess. They're like, how do we spend your money? This person might, this person might, this person might. To follow that up, Kelly is wondering, or is more of a statement, but I've got a question with it for you. All right, so Kelly says, we are in the camp that has so many listings and a small budget because we are so scared to increase. Now, the reason I point this one out is I feel like a lot of sellers are probably in this boat, right? Because you got a small budget and we don't want to waste money, right? No one wants to throw money away. And I think that's the biggest fear that people have with any sort of ad spend and promoted listings. I mean, that's one of those famous marketing quotes, right? The problem I have is 50% of my marketing dollars are wasted. The problem is I don't know which 50%. That's just been the age-old saying since you were just marketing on paper. And, you know, to an extent, it's true, right? You can't track every bit. But what would you say to those who, you know, who are operating in the real small budget and they're scared to do something more with it?
Yeah, for sure. So this answer really has 2 parts. It has a technical answer and it has like a life advice answer. You know, like promoted listings, like, yeah, you can spend money and not earn anything, and you can also do really well. You're going to do really well if you have a strategy in place and you follow it and you don't give up on it and you continue analyzing. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. If you continue to test and you do everything right, it's a matter of when, not if. So if you're afraid to spend, that is outside of any Etsy related advice. I would just say, you know, you got to spend money to make money, and the answer here is more mindset related. Go into it with a positive mindset, increase your daily budget. You know, everybody's got random stuff laying around their house. You know, if you need to Craigslist some stuff so you have extra money for ads. That there's no shame in that. So that way you feel good about it and you feel like it's free ad money. Then you can move forward without fear on your shoulders. That's a huge thing with advertising. Whether it be Facebook ads, Google ads, YouTube ads, any type of ad, it's the mindset is really what stops a lot of beginners. Is that I'm afraid of spending so much and not earning anything. But I always hear all of the Facebook ad people and all the e-commerce guru people telling people that the reason they succeed is that they know there's success after that paywall. You got to spend money to make money. So if you know that it's there, then obviously there's nothing holding you back. But for a beginner that doesn't know for sure if it's there, then I understand that situation. But the fear can be released, because if you have a strategic, awesome, proven plan in place, then your likelihood goes way up, and you're not shooting from the hip anymore. You got an awesome red dot sniper scope now, if you have the right strategy and if you go through the course.
Makes sense. Cool. That's some good advice right there, man. I like it. And I love again that you speak from someone that's gone through it, goes through it. You're there.
Mhm.
Okay, so Jillian would like to know, are you saying that we should have multiple listings for the same product with different tags for each? Because you did make a comment about duplicate listings at one point.
Yeah.
And the pen.
Yeah, you can definitely do that. Depending on who you ask, if you go into the wrong Facebook group and ask that, people might get on you, but Etsy doesn't explicitly say that you can't do that. And honestly, I've seen lots of Etsy shops be featured on Etsy ads, Etsy landing pages, and lots of Etsy marketing materials that are like one product stores. Like there's this one store that I can think of that is all of those like cell phone stands that go on your nightstand, and it holds your wallet, your watch, your cell phone, all those things. I've seen a shop that was featured on Etsy's marketing stuff that was just like 100 listings of that one product, all with different titles. So yeah, it's totally fine. It's a gray area, but it's not black or white. So yes, you can do it, and a lot of other people do it. It's okay.
Excellent. Here's another one from Michael. A junk tag would generate an impression, but not likely a click costing money. So what's the monetary downside? Now, my understanding is promoted listings aren't just based on clicks, right?
So you don't pay for impressions. So yeah, you're right. There is a monetary downside, is that people will click. They don't know that you're paying. They don't care that you're paying. If it looks interesting enough to click, they might. I've had tags suck up $80 to $100 of clicks without making any money. So it's just because oh, you're on the internet. Oh, that looks entertaining. I'm going to click on that. Oh, that looks cool. Okay, I don't really care. Goodbye. You just paid for that click. They just left. So yeah, it does have a monetary downside. You'll see a listing spend X amount of dollars and earn $0, or you'll see a listing spend $20 and earn $5, stuff like that. So there is a monetary downside, and you pay per click, not per impression. So you'll get a lot of impressions because of that word being so common, but then the people that do get entertained or do have like a smidget of interest will click and waste your money.
Got it. Okay, so you're saying that Etsy will still put them up there, and the risk is that people will click, and it's just not going to work out well. Okay.
Yeah.
I think I got it.
Yeah.
Okay, but it's also correct. You're saying that even if Etsy shows it 10,000 times and no one clicks it, you're not going to get charged for it by Etsy.
Yeah, but Etsy would never show it 10,000 times if you're not getting any clicks on it. It's like,
right. So that's a good point too. So they're not going to show it, like they're going to, if it's being shown and not clicked, it might just stop getting shown.
Yeah.
also.
The algorithm would likely identify like, okay, the engagement is not good past, okay, we've given it 500 impressions and there's no clicks, so it automatically gives it it automatically has a click-through rate of 0, and then why would they continue showing that, So it's like it's probably gauged in little stages, like, oh, look, out of these 500 impressions, it's been clicked 10 times. Holy crap, let's show it to more people.
Right? Yeah, exactly. Especially as you pointed out, if they're not getting paid for that part, right? Like the only reason they're going to show them the impression and not get paid for that in the pay to play scenario, right, is because they're expecting it to get clicked. They're going to show things they're getting clicked.
Yeah.
Cool. I just want to make sure to clarify that real well.
No worries.
Cool. Hey, so is there any reason I shouldn't, while people are here, drop into the chat? I know we're going to send out an email with this information, but any reason that, while people are here in the chat, that I shouldn't drop a link to the course, the coupon code, and a link to your YouTube channel?
Drop them.
Okay. I'm going to drop that into the chat because quite a few of the questions here are related to how do I find the link to the course, the information on that, and how do I find Dave on YouTube. So hopefully we got you some, well, I know we have some existing fans of yours on here, and hopefully we got you some new ones here too.
Yeah, make sure to give them the Marma 35, gets you 35% off the entire course. The entire course is an extensive collection of written information as well as video walkthrough information, complete hand-holding, suitable for beginners and experts to become successful with promoted listings. And it's really a really good course. I put everything I know about promoted listings into this, and promoted listings has brought me so much success that I believe that this information should be shared with people.
That's fantastic. Yeah, you definitely, in our interactions, you definitely strike me as the kind of guy who puts it all in there, and I love that. I'm not sure that you naturally know what to hold back if you were to hold something back. Right. And I love that.
It's tough. It's tough to, I see a lot of YouTube channels that sell like e-commerce courses and stuff like that. And honestly, I have a few courses for e-commerce for Shopify and stuff because I do Shopify, and I bought courses. And so it really helps that I bought courses because this course is a course that I would want to purchase myself. I bought courses that were just fluff and were just like, holy crap, this is no different from the YouTube channel. But this course that I made is just exactly what you need to become successful with Etsy promoted listings.
That's awesome. Okay, so I'm just kind of engrossed in these questions. Sorry, man. Kelly says, also, we're finding that all of our money tied to promoted listings is used up by like 3 or 4 a.m. Is this also a sign that we're not spending enough money? So that, man, if the daily budget starts at midnight and it's spent before daybreak, what do you make of that?
Well, there's either like some really hardcore junk tags or some really hardcore really good tags, like if you, the question is if you're earning, if in that 3 to 4 hours where you did get promoted listings ad spend, were you making money? And if you were, definitely increase your budget because you'll continue to make money. But if it's just spending it all and you're not making anything, then a more deeper dive is required into the data. So go and look at the biggest spenders. I show you how to do this in the course as well, to go into your dashboard, look at the biggest spenders, and then that's how you know which ones you need to analyze, fix, delete, etc. So just go find the biggest spenders and see what keywords are making them spend so much. It might be a junk tag, it might be a really good tag. And if you're making money, then find those really good tags and make more listings with those really good tags.
Makes sense. Yeah, so that's a really good question right there, right? Your follow-up question is, well, yeah, does that mean that, by 3 or 4 it's used up, but you made money? Because if so, like that's a really great problem to have. All right, let's say this one's the last question.
Okay.
All right. So how does a new shop have a chance to get started if only bestsellers and people with lots of 5-star ratings are showing up in the top of search?
Well,
I feel like there's kind of a question behind the question there, but
uh-huh.
yeah, go ahead. So I think it's more of a feeling than a thing, right? Because
Yeah.
search obviously has a lot more than just bestsellers, 5-star ratings, new people, in fact, get a bump. But so I guess the question is more of a, let's talk and address this feeling of, I guess, kind of a lack of inclusion, because you've been
Yeah.
on Etsy for a while.
Yeah, I understand that, and I've experienced that lack.
I think the fire alarm is going off in the building I'm in.
Oh no.
You keep
So
talking.
anyway, so that feeling of inclusion happened to me. Like you just think to yourself like, why you need to earn your rank, and I mean it's suitable. It's like it's understandable that okay, you got to earn your keep and stuff. And then at the same time, it does suck if you're a new seller and you're not getting as much. But you do get a bump from being a new seller. They give you a chance. They definitely give you a fighting chance as a new shop. And if you're a new shop, I definitely recommend to just promote your stuff as much as you can. Get them, like on social media and stuff. So you could like stimulate your shop a lot. You can get all of those reviews and sales from outside of Etsy. You don't have to rely on Etsy to make your Etsy great. Like we sent a ton of traffic from Instagram and in the beginning of our Etsy. So
You guys
it
enjoy
really, really
this.
helps. It really helps. And so yeah, send traffic to them because everyone knows that it takes sales and reviews and stuff to get ranking and become successful and continue to rank, but nobody ever said that those sales and those reviews have to come from within Etsy. So you can just bring them all in from outside of Etsy, Pinterest, a lot of Etsy sellers use Pinterest, and honestly, I read a statistic where the majority of e-commerce pins on Pinterest are largely Etsy pins. So at Pinterest sellers or Pinterest users are extremely familiar with Pinterest Pinterest users are extremely familiar with Etsy sellers. So they're completely familiar with the checkout process and everything. So you could bring in traffic from regular Pinterest or from promoted pins if you want to, or same thing with Instagram. And you can build an email list outside of Etsy with whatever social media channel you have, and continuously feed traffic to your Etsy shop. That way, it'll just stimulate, snowball.
Yeah,
Because
and Etsy's actually really happy about that. Whenever you can bring in your own traffic and stuff outside of Etsy's own efforts, right? You see TV spots and stuff like that Etsy puts out there to try to pull shoppers in. And I mean, that's like the big draw is why you sell on Etsy, because there's 35 million active shoppers there, right?
mhm.
So they're wanting to pull in their own audience. And if you can pull your own people in too, that's even more fantastic. Etsy is ecstatic about that. It just helps grow the entire community.
Yeah, absolutely. And there's so many ways to bring in more traffic to your shop. Like if you can go out there and find some bloggers that blog about stuff that's in your niche, because Etsy actually has an affiliate program. If you guys didn't know that, Etsy has an affiliate program just like Amazon does or eBay does. Just so if you refer people to Etsy and they click on your link, then you get a small commission. So a lot of bloggers are Etsy affiliates and they talk about Etsy products. So if you go out there and you find those bloggers and say, hey, I'll send you a product for you to review, that's another traffic source. And it doesn't matter how many sales or reviews you have on Etsy for people to click and come to your shop in that situation. So there's just so many ways to bring traffic in from outside, and there's free ways and there's paid ways. But that is one way to overcome that little that quick, time period of being new and not knowing what to do with yourself.
That's fantastic. Unfortunately, I don't have access to be able to see any of the questions or comments that are showing up in chat, or the ability to mute Richie's microphone for him. So we're gonna have to enjoy the fire alarm for as long as it lasts.
It's all good. It's all good. Yeah, a lot of people can bring in traffic from Pinterest ads and have that traffic targeted from keywords on Pinterest. Because Pinterest is a search-based website, they have search-based ads. So let's say you have a winner from Etsy. You go over to Pinterest and you use those same keywords. I go over this in the course as well, and you can use your data all across Etsy, and then you can use stuff outside of Etsy going into Etsy. So you have to understand that Etsy is just a big marketplace with lots of sellers there, and you can climb and rank, or you could have a standalone website that you don't need to climb and rank, that you need to send traffic in externally. So having that marketplace traffic is a blessing for people that don't want to deal with like sending traffic to themselves and buying traffic, etc. It's really a great spot to start for handmade sellers as well, because there's that free traffic.
Hmm. I think it's cool too. A lot of the stuff that you talked about in the webinar with us too, while it certainly can help you with promoted listings, it can also help sellers with their organic traffic as well. It's a lot of the same principles kind of overlap between the two of them. So a lot of the things that they're going to be doing to make sure that they're getting the most out of their promoted listings money is just going to help them organically on Etsy by itself anyway. So it's like you're getting double benefit out of that deal.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's a great thing. It's the whole warm traffic versus cold traffic thing. Like, if you master Google AdWords or any ad platform that is based on warm traffic and keyword searches, your conversion rate's going to be a little, maybe a lot higher than compared to if you were doing ads on interruption-based platforms like Facebook ads or something to that effect.
Looks like Richie was able to mute himself. Thank you, Richie. That's awesome. Yeah. That's some fantastic info, Dave. You really went through a lot of stuff, and I think it's fantastic. The whole world of promoted listings, there's a lot of content off of Etsy for how to set up ad campaigns and stuff like that. But as far as understanding how to do it properly on Etsy, there's not a whole lot of other stuff out there that I'm aware of. I mean, obviously Etsy tries to educate sellers and stuff, but you've been through it, man. It's like a long, hard road of all of this content, and you've got to step through it, and you've got to piece together information from sources outside of Etsy to kind of get maybe like a fundamentals of how these things are set up and how they work elsewhere. So to have kind of already gone through all of that and compiled all the information for yourself, and to be able to share that with other people, they can learn from the things that you did that didn't work for you and the things that you did that did work for you, and really give themselves a leg up in this space. And I think that's fantastic.
Thank you. Yeah, I stay as transparent as possible about all my stuff. In the course, there's videos of it. I'm in my dashboard showing you my statistics and stuff. So I'm super transparent about everything. Everything you learn from me is stuff that I've gone through. I've learned it myself. I've tested it. I've proven it. And all of my, like I said, all of my resources are never any fluff, all actionable tips. I really dislike fluff information. So yeah, it's a great thing. Like, yeah, thanks.
That's awesome. Correct me if I'm wrong too. I think that when you're looking at your promoted listing stats, there's a bunch of information in there that you can only see when you have promoted listings turned on. So like, if you wanted to see what keywords you have that are specifically generating traffic and getting clicks and impressions and sales and stuff like that, that's not something that Etsy shares with you outside of promoted listings. You can see which keywords are performing, but you don't necessarily know what the full picture is for those keywords on your listing. And so it's a good way to kind of pay for a whole bunch of extra good information on your listings to really amp up those keywords and get rid of junk tags like you're talking about.
Yeah, absolutely. So it is absolutely like that. Could you repeat what you just said? I totally forgot what you just said.
I was just saying, inside of promoted listings, there's a whole bunch of extra information that Etsy provides to you, that, if you don't have promoted listings turned on, they have some listing stats that you can look at and kind of see a breakdown of stuff, but the wealth of information available to you once you turn on promoted listings is it's awesome.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's absolutely true. Like it's great. No, if you lose with promoted listings and you don't do well and you spend a bunch of money, you still paid for data that you wouldn't have previously. So the statistics on organic listings are way different than promoted listing statistics. They give you way more insight. They tell you high click rate, high order rate. They tell you what exact keywords brought this impression and how many. It's so powerful within Etsy and outside of Etsy, like the information you get from promoted listings. Very powerful. You get information that you cannot get without doing that. Yes, that is absolutely true, and it's a very solid point.
It sounds like Richie's still experiencing a fire alarm there. Hopefully, I don't see any smoke, so it looks like everything's going okay.
It is still going off, and it's very loud. Sorry.
Wow.
They timed it perfectly. If people
This is
want
what
to get
happens
more
when you go to a quiet building to do a webinar.
right, yeah, I'm gonna
Right.
get out of the house and get rid of the family noise, right? And no, that doesn't work out so well.
That's funny.
What are you gonna do? If people want to know more about you, I know we've talked with you on the Jam before. We've mentioned that. So if you head over to blog.marmalead.com and you search for Woodland Zen, or if you search for Dave, actually, you'll find Dave on our blog over there. We link out to his shop and his YouTube and his ebook library that he has from the blog post. But is there anywhere else you'd want to send people, Dave, so they can check out more about you and get more awesome knowledge bombs that you can drop on them?
No, I primarily share on my YouTube channel and through my email list. So go to my YouTube channel and you can go in the description and sign up for my emails and get my emails, my YouTube. That's all I stick to. I don't do Instagram or anything like that. If there was more hours in the day than I would have in Instagram and stuff like that for my Etsy help, but I focus my social media efforts for my e-com businesses. So yeah, YouTube channel, my ebook, resources, and my email list.
Awesome. And I think as Richie mentioned, we're collecting all of the questions from this webinar. And so we will throw those over to Dave after the webinar is closed out. Keep an eye on his YouTube channel if you asked a question and we didn't get to field it here in the webinar, because there's a good chance that he'll do his best to hit it over on his YouTube channel. There's going to be a recording sent out of this webinar too. So if you came in late, or if there's one part of it that you're like, man, I really wish I could have heard that part again, you will get an email with a recording of this webinar. The links to Dave's promoted listings course should be in the chat. It's marmalead.com/a/promoted listings, and you'll get access to it there. He's got his coupon code as a reminder of MARMA35, which will give you guys 35% off. Just for being a Marmalead customer or dabbler affiliated with Marmalead. And that coupon is good forever, he said. So that's awesome. Thank you for doing that, Dave. You didn't have to do that, but I think that's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. In the age of information, there's no reason why we all shouldn't be winning. You know, there's the information's out there. It's up to us to collect it and implement it.
That's awesome.
Love it. That is so true. And I think that's the biggest barrier, is just to, like, I've given you the info, follow it.
Yeah. And also, everybody, be sure to watch out for the email after this containing the webinar and the link to the course.
Absolutely. Yep. Keep an eye out from that. We are going to send that out. As soon as the recording does its processing thing, we'll put all that together and send it out to you.
Beautiful.
All right. Well, thank you again, Dave. This was a pleasure. Always awesome chatting with you, and thank you for sharing your knowledge with our audience, man. Greatly appreciate
no problem. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely.
Of course.
Have a nice day, guys.
All right, you too.
All right, later. Well, I know there's an end button on here. So.